We should be live. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm just going to give it a minute until I see that you are actually here. We should be live from the Dockland area in London. It is 7:30 p.m. UK time. Well, nearly 10 minutes before 7:30. Cool. I can see the numbers, so you should be here. Perfect. Thank you very much, Tish. So we've got about 10 minutes before to start. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. So if any of you were watching this on replay in the next few days, if you wanted to skip the hellos and go straight into the live tour, feel free to skip the next 10 minutes. Maybe even 11. And Katie is here from Pennsylvania. Nice to have you along, Katie. Welcome everyone that I did not greet in the chat. Let us know in the chat where you're tuning from. We still have plenty of time to get to know each other. We've got about, let me see, 11 minutes precisely. And it is 7:30 p.m. UK time, so a lot of people have just finished their job at the office, whatever they do, and you will see there's quite a few people enjoying a drink on the street. And Genevieve is here. Welcome, Genevieve. And Anel, welcome, Anel. Let us know in the chat if you happen to be completely new to me. It's always amazing to see a few new names. And Chas is here. Welcome, Chas. Let us know in the chat where you're tuning from. And if any of you were watching this on replay in the next few days or months, and if you were wondering how to join those live, if you always end up catching the replays and you want to be there live with us, what you want to do really is to subscribe to the channel and go into under the subscribe button. You'll see the notification thing. So you want to click the bell on everything, and you should get a notification when I go live. And welcome, Joanne. And Tariq is here. Nice to see you here, Tariq. I cycled past pretty close to where you live, I think, on my way here. So we've got about, let me check, 9 minutes to go. Has anyone over here done any mudlarking? I haven't, no. I should try to do a tour. You can't really do it if you don't have a license, but I have a friend that runs some mudlarking tours. I should try to join her one day. Well, technically, I have been down the river shores and I've taken a look, but I'm not meant to, because you need a license to go down mudlarking. Because it could be a bit dangerous. You could be searching in the mud, you're searching, and suddenly you look up and you are on an island because the tide has come in. So it can be a bit dangerous. You need to have a license and to have always two people. This way, even if one is being very distracted, the other one should remember where the closest staircase is at. Yes, I'm not far from you. If you win, just flip. Oh, islands. I was just thinking about you today, thinking I didn't see you in a while. Nice to have you along.
Okay, guys, come. Hey guys, so no. Our base, Luke and mine, base is that, and your base.
Well, you know what? The day when I went to Richmond, I had wet feet for hours, but then that happened again when I did the filming for the Enfield Poltergeist. I went first to the first cemetery, Lavender Hill. The grass was wet. It took me a while to find the grave, and my feet were soaked for the day again. So I tend to get used to those soaked feet. Let me see who I've missed. Hi, Linda.
Guys, you go there.
Hi, David. Welcome, Sandy. And welcome everyone that I've missed. I think Laurie was asking, what do you look for when you look into the mud? Well, one of the most common items to find, it is this. Okay, I shouldn't show you that because I don't have a mudlarking license. But this is part of an old clay pipe. So those are everywhere. They're not valuable, but they're about like 400 years old. You can also look for coins, yes, anything really, pottery or badges or pins or anything could. But those guys are amazing at recognizing stuff. To me, if you show me an old piece of metal, I would have no idea what it is. They have a club, I think it's at the Museum of London on a Saturday, so they can show each other what they found, and they can help each other as well. Kind of diagnoses what is what. And welcome everyone. So we've got I'd say about 5 minutes to go. Yeah, 5 minutes to go. Let us know in the chat if you happen to be completely new to me. It's always great to see a few newbies, if any, of course. I see something here. I don't know if it's a light. I see a little spot in the middle. I don't know if it's on my screen or if it's a light thing. It doesn't matter. Oh, on the East Coast, they go digging up for clams. Yeah. Well, we do that as well in Brittany, where my parents live. Where have you been, Lance? Have you been busy? 5 minutes, yes, exactly. And Mike is here. Nice to see you here, Mike. Let me give you a glimpse of the view already. I tried not to flip the camera back and forth too much because I've noticed that on Prism, when you do that, you kind of, it's like if you lost the signal for half a sec. It's not bad, but I'm just going to try not to do it too much. Yeah, I've not seen you in a while, I think. Because I think I was watching an old video and I said something, I said Highlands or whatever, and I was like, oh, I've not seen him in a while. And Lethargy is here. Hi, Lethargy. Nice to see you here. So we've got a few minutes before to go. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And Kurt is here as well. Welcome. Yeah, there's a lot of the old Hago gang, indeed. So we've got 2 minutes to go. 2 minutes. And welcome everyone that just joined that I did not see in the chat. The old Hago gang. Well, we still have a few people missing. I think sometimes people get busy with other things in their life and then they come back after a little while. Oh, I like coming a bit early to say hello to everyone.
My sister, I'm not like she just doesn't really think.
Oh, you were at the Palladium. That is also haunted. That's good. You can catch the video later. It was a little video anyway, so you can catch it anytime. Cool. Let me check if it is time. 1 minute to go. Oops. Just trying not to frame any children. And welcome, Herbie. Nice to see you here, Emma. Let me check. And it is officially time to start. So welcome, guys. Welcome to London. It is 7:30 p.m. UK time. So it is time to go. Let me flip this camera around and let's go. So if anyone was completely new to me, this is a live walk and it is interactive. So feel free to use the chat. Ask me any questions you might have. I might know or I might not know, but I'll try anyway. Now we are in a lovely place called Crossrail Gardens. It opened about, I think it's been about 4 years now. We are, would you believe, in a train station or above a train station. This is the new Crossrail station. So that's the new Canary Wharf station on the Elizabeth line, you know, the new tube line. Well, not so new anymore. It's been about 3.5 years that it is open now. And so it is open air. It's a little garden. I'll show you the building from ground level in a moment. It's actually shaped in the shape of a ship. It's because, of course, in the docks we used to receive a lot of cargo from all over the empire. And those plants and trees, they come from all over the globe. Towards my left, you've got plants from the east. In the middle, you've got plants from Europe, so the Middle East. And towards the right, so it's the end of the garden here towards the west, you've got plants from the west. So we're talking Alaska, Peru, anywhere in America, really. So it's quite an original idea, and you might be able to guess from the ceiling who the architect is. You might recognize those little triangles. They might look a bit familiar. We've got a couple of buildings or skyscrapers in London that are from the same architect. Do you know who that might be? I'm sure some of you might remember. A lot of you have done this tour before. Exactly, Kurt. It is, of course, Norman Foster. So, I mean, I think the station alone, I think I already was 500 millions. The cost of the Elizabeth line in total, I think it cost 19 billions. It was meant to be 15, but it was a bit delayed and it cost a bit more than originally planned. And we also have a station on the Jubilee line at Canary Wharf. That was actually voted Londoners' favorite station in 2013. And in Canary Wharf, when you take the underground, yeah, exactly, Tariq. When you take the underground, you actually have to queue. So you have a line on the platform, which is really rare. I mean, British people love queuing, but usually we don't queue for the underground. In Canary Wharf you do, so it's a very civilized area. Now there's an interesting experience here, some kind of 360 reality psychical experience. I've not been inside. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it looks interesting. Now let me show you an amazing tunnel. It is the Walala tunnel. That was created for the Mural Festival of 2020, September 2020, and it's paradise for Instagrammers. It's from an artist, a street artist and designer called Walala. Let me show you her name in case you wanted to Google her. So Walala is a French artist, well, a French Londoner. She's lived here like 20 years, I think. And some of you might have seen some of her work with me before, here or on South Molton Street, the ones that have just been removed, by Bond Street, we've noticed last time. There was also a huge mural in Leytonstone. I've not been in a while. I don't know if it's still there. It might have been a bit covered up. But this one is one of my favorite. It looks very different at night or at daytime, because at daytime you have some sunlight coming through as well. So it's actually a little bit nicer at daytime. And you have a lot of people coming down here to take photos for their Instagram, or some of them lie on the floor, some do some jumps or some headstands or whatever it might be, because it's quite a lovely background for photos. A bit psychedelic, really. The benches were fun, yes, sadly they've been removed. I love them. I don't know why. I don't know if it was always the plan to have them only for a few years, or if maybe they've been vandalized or damaged, I don't know. Right, so as you see, the docks today are very, very modern. You'll see a lot of skyscrapers, and it's an interesting place today. A lot of the businesses are actually underground. There's a shopping center underneath us, but we'll stay on street level, and let's go down. So to tell you a bit more about the history of the Port of London, really, the Port of London used to be in Roman times. It was around the city, so around the Tower of London today. And well, actually, you had a quay all the way down to Vauxhall as well. In Saxon times, the Saxons they did a lot of landing the boats on the shores, so they didn't have as much of a port as we did. And after that, in Elizabethan times, she created about 20 little quays. When I say quays, I mean quays with a Q, because sometimes with the YouTube subtitles they write random stuff, so I don't mean the keys for the apartment, I mean the little keys for the boats, because she was worried that a lot of people wouldn't pay their taxes, so you had those official keys by the Tower of London today. And there were a lot of pirates, would you believe? See, that's the station. It is in the shape of a ship. It's been built on the dock itself. It's in the water. Exactly, Sansan. And yes, so those pirates, they used to steal some of the goods. I know when I say pirates, you probably imagine Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. Anyone stealing from a boat, even if it was in London, was a pirate. There's a little food court over here, Cargo Market Hall, and it is very busy today. Thursday is like the new Friday, because a lot of people don't really go to the office on Fridays anymore. Since COVID, a lot of people do a few days a week at home, or at least a Friday at home. So Thursday are quite busy nowadays. Anyway, back to our pirates. The pirates, the punishment for piracy was the capital punishment, but even worse to an extent, because the pirates, they were dealt with by the Admiralty. The Admiralty did not have any land, so they used to hang the pirates at sea, or whatever is the closest to the sea, the River Thames. Because the River Thames is tidal, it goes in and out following the sea levels. When the tide is out, you have a large beach area. So they'll wait for the tide to be out, they'll place the gallows on the beach area. Welcome Abbey and welcome everyone that just joined. So they'll hang the pirates, but then they would leave them there. They would leave them there to metaphorically get washed by the tide. So they would leave the tide to come in and out 3 times to metaphorically wash their bodies away from their sins. And they used to get a bit bloated, those pirates, those dead pirates. They were known as whoppers. Allegedly, it is how we got the name for Wapping today. You know, the area towards the west of here is known as Wapping still today. It's because of those dead pirates. And above us just there, that's the tracks for the DLR. The DLR stands for Disneyland Ride. No, just kidding. It's the Dockland Light Railway. It's a train that was created in the in the late 80s, like everything around us. When they first opened it, apparently, I think there's one coming, hold on. When they first opened it, apparently there was a tour guide on board to make it a bit attractive. Oh no, maybe not. I thought it was vibrating, but maybe not. And it's quite, so there's no driver, and it's quite amazing because the views are very lovely. So you can cross the full Isle of Wight on those trains. Yeah, that's why I said allegedly. There are many different, as always with language, different interpretations. Anyway, back to our pirates. The most notorious pirates, their bodies would be taken down from the scaffold, already dead. They'll be shaven everywhere, coated in some kind of tar to preserve them a bit longer, and they'll be placed in a gibbet. A gibbet, it's some kind of a metal cage. Not to be pronounced a gibbet, some people do, but it's definitely a gibbet. Let me show you what it looks like. So that's a gibbet. That's what they did to the most notorious pirates. They'll place their bodies in a cage like that, and they'll put them back on the river shores as a deterrent. And apparently it was quite gruesome, really, in areas like Deptford or the O2 Peninsula. Apparently some kids used to throw rocks at them, you know, to see if any body parts or limbs or anything would fall off. And that didn't really work as a deterrent, you know, people were still committing piracy. Let me remove the picture. And there's a DLR up there, let me show you. Eventually the problem with piracy became so bad that we had a gentleman called Robert Milligan that had the idea of creating those docks that were isolated here on the Isle of Dogs. The Isle of Dogs, by the way, we don't really know where the name came from. Some people claim that it came from King Henry VIII. that had his dogs on this part of town. If you look at the Isle of Dogs on the map, it looks like a tear-shaped piece of land coming into the river. And Henry VIII had his palace, the Palace of Placentia, on the other side of the river. But apparently historians contradict that as well. Some claim that the name was even before King Henry VIII. So we don't really know for sure. Some say that it used to be the Isle of Dykes. We just don't know for sure, like many places' names. What I find interesting, and is a bit random, is that Canary Wharf, it's of course named after the Canary Islands, because we had a wharf where they used to receive a lot of bananas from the Canary Islands. And Canary, from Canary Islands, it actually means Isle of Dogs as well, because it's not Canary after the birds, it's Isle of Dogs. Canary, it's from canis, canine, dogs in Latin. So the Canary Islands also mean the Isle of Dogs, which is interesting. Canary Wharf, by the way, do not let anyone tell you that wharf is an how do you call it? Anachronism. No. How do you call them? Acronism. Yeah, acronism. It's not. Some people say that wharf stands for warehouse along the riverfront. It's not true. Wharf is a term on its own. It's an old Saxon term, apparently. Anyway, back to Milligan. So Robert Milligan had this idea of creating those docks that were isolated with a big wall, and that would stop piracy. Only people working in could come in, and that was a great idea. So in 1802, the docks over here were finally opened, and they were very successful. I mean, London has always been a port city, We are on an island, so we have to import some of the goods by the sea, and export as well, of course. And they were very successful, but sadly they were massively, yes, we'll get to that in a moment, Kurt. Sadly, they were massively bombed through the Second World War. The Nazis, of course, it was a good idea for them to damage the docks, if they wanted to damage us. So the docks were heavily bombed. They recovered after the war. The period where they were the most successful, actually, were at the beginning of the 60s. But then eventually, when they invented the shipping containers, those boats were way too big to come all the way down here into London. So the port of London was moved to Tilbury. That's much closer to the estuary. And Tilbury today is still busy, but now you've got about 700 people doing the job of 30,000 before, because of course you've got all those machines and computers and all that. This area here became a bit redundant, really. And it's in the 80s, under Margaret Thatcher, that they had the idea of redeveloping everything into a business district. And pretty much everything here was started in the 80s. So today it's full of businesses and banks and newspapers and whatever offices they might have. Well, I like the Isle of Dogs as well, because there's a big floating dock. I'll show you in a moment. But for now, let me show you a beautiful sculpture. It is called Returning to Embrace. It's a bit dark, but it's, dark, not much light, not dark as dark. I quite like it because it's hard to tell which limb belonged to who, really. It is, the artist is John Buck. And returning to Embrace, it's got nothing to do with COVID. I know it sounds a bit COVID-y, but it's much older than that. It's from, I think it's 1999, this one. Right, let me cross over the street to show you the One Canada Place. And you might, for those of you that have followed that tour with me before, you might notice there's a little change in terms of statues. I'll show you. They've literally just removed one and moved one along. Some of you might remember straight ahead, we used to have a statue from Lynn Chadwick. It was, I think it was called Couple Seated on a Bench. And for some of you that don't remember, there were two characters, one with a cubic face, one with a triangle. Same artist as the one on top of Fort Newman Mason on Piccadilly. Anyway, somehow they've removed that statue, and they placed this one instead. Do you guys remember what this one is called? It's a very unoriginal name. Let's see if you remember or if you can guess. It used to be across the street, but we've seen it before. Let me know in the chat if you remember. The artist is Giles Penny. And I think it's in the 90s as well, I think 1995. Oh, I nearly fell down, I didn't see the step here. So do we remember, what is this one called? Exactly, Two Men on a Bench. Hi, Kevin, welcome. Yeah, down. Cool, let me show you the skyscrapers. So One Canada Place was the first one. You've got the HSBC building on the left-hand side, so that's the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank Corporation, and the City building as well. Now, a lot of them are offices, but not only. You do have a few apartments as well. I'm not sure I'd like to live here, though. I find it a bit cold, because a lot of those businesses are, you know, on streets. Usually you've got, well, in London at least, you've got the businesses on ground level, and above that you've got apartments and stuff. Here it's been designed, well, some of the architects were actually from Canada. In Canada it makes sense because it's freezing, but you've got those big shopping galleries underground, like shopping centers. Then you don't have any shops on ground level, so it feels a bit sterile, is the term I'm looking for. So I'm not sure how much I'd like living here, but. And those apartments, not all of them are ridiculously expensive, because there's a regulation in London called Section 106. When a property developer wants to develop a huge complex, they have to include some social housing. Well, they don't have to if they don't want to. They can skip, but then they'll have to pay a penalty fare to the local authorities. So the local authorities would use that money to build some social housing as well. Anyway, we are now leaving Cabot Square. You find it soulless? Yeah, I find it a bit soulless as well. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's nice to visit for a few hours, but I don't think I'll. Let's go back to our dockers. So the job of a docker was very, very difficult, you know, very labor intensive. And of course the area of Poplar was extremely poor. We spoke about that maybe when we talked about the Jack the Ripper victims. Some of them had lived around here. It was an area of extreme poverty. Some of those Victorians, wealthy Victorians, they used to do what they called slumming. So they'll come on their horse carriages to this area to observe the poor, you know, like if they went to the zoo. So some of those men were actually quite malnourished. So they were not best at very difficult exercise. You know, some of the cargo was really heavy to lift all day. You know, bags of sugar or barrels of rum. We are in the West India Docks, so you had a lot of molasses and sugar and rum over here.
Bloggage. Oi.
And sorry, some people trying to get on camera, but it's very funny because I don't want to be ageist, but young people, when they try to get on camera, they always assume that you are on selfie mode, so they come behind you. Older people, they always assume that you're filming the outside, not yourself, so they come in front of you. Usually people try to get on camera a bit younger, but it's funny when technically I could be facing myself or I could be facing anywhere, but I find it funny. Sometimes I'm actually facing myself, and older people would move out of the way not to be on camera, and I'm like, no, you're good, I'm facing myself. It's interesting. Anyway, so that's the duck I mentioned earlier. It's a great marketing boost because, of course, everyone photographs it to end up on Instagram. So it's for fair game. It's game place around here. And this is, I think, a barbecue boat. The schooner. See the little boats there? They might not be on today, but they have a little barbecue in the middle. They also do some jacuzzi boats, but they had a bit of bad press in the press lately. Because when you are on those jacuzzi boats, a lot of people are here on the bridge and they take photos of you and they're mocking you and stuff. Anyway, that's, I like that duck. Anyway, back to our dockers. The dockers, they never knew whether they were going to have a day of work or not, because no one knew how many ships would arrive that day in the port of London. So the dockers, they had to wake up, come here early morning, hoping to get a day of work. And what happened is the foreman would ring the bell, so everyone would queue, hoping to be picked for a day of work. The foreman, well, the honest ones, they would pick the guys that looked the strongest. Which was hard for people that couldn't be fed properly, because then they looked weak and they were never picked. You can see we still have some cranes in the background, so those cranes are part of the old docks. We decided to keep them. And so yeah, the honest foremen, they would just pick the stronger men. Some of the foremen were not that honest. They'll go to the pub the night before, and whoever was buying them a few drinks, they'll be picked the next day. And some of the foremen were really horrible. A day of work was a little token. They'll give you the token, and that meant that you had work for the day. Sometimes some of the foremen, they would just drop the token and let the men fight for it. Although some of those fights could be a bit violent, because the dockers, they had hooks. Let me show you those bag hooks. So that's the hooks. They used to catch the bags or the boxes. So imagine fighting with that. So some of those fights might have been quite violent, really. The dockers, they didn't really have a uniform, but let me show you the type of stuff they'll wear. They often had those. See what he's done with his knees? He's tied some shoelaces or some kind of laces under his knees. Apparently that was to stop the rats coming up, because you had so much sugar here that you had rats everywhere. So to stop them coming up your trousers. Lovely. And see the flat cap. They often had those type of caps because they used to hide their sandwiches in there, because they didn't have a locker or anything like that. So if they left their sandwiches anywhere for their lunch, they'll be stolen by the other dockers, or maybe by the rats. So they often had their little sandwiches in there. Anyway, let me remove that. I have to be very careful when I remove the pictures, because we don't want the little bug we've had last time. And so yeah, those poor dockers, they didn't know when they could have a day of work or not. They'll have to wake up for nothing very often. And it was like a vicious cycle, because the ones that were very poorly, because they didn't have money to feed themselves, then they would never be picked by the foreman. Quite sad, really.
I'm so tired.
And I listened to quite a few interviews of people that used to work in the docks or their parents did. And I was listening to a little girl. Well, she was a little girl at some point. She was now an old lady. She was saying that her dad used to come and work in the docks, but you still had a big wall at that time. So she never got to come inside of the docks. So for her, it was like almost like Narnia, you know, like another world that she never got to explore. She could see the top of the mast because on the in the dock here you could fit 600 vessels. So that's quite. That would have been like a forest of mast. It's quite difficult to imagine today, but yeah. And you know, the cargo was still very expensive. So even after the wall, some of the dockers still decided to steal a bit of the goods. You know, very small quantities very often because they were not allowed to have big pockets anyway. But some of them would nick a bit of tobacco to put it in their socks, or some of them were taking a bit of sugar, for example. And the problem was so big that they had to commission some night watch. So they were some kind of a night patrol to check that no one was stealing. The problem has always been there. To give you an idea, the Thames Police was created in 1798, before the Metropolitan Police, because we had so much crime on the river, so many pirates. And so here they had their private guards. They were armed and everything, so they would be patrolling at night. Well, apparently some of those guards have been found in the docks. They could have been falling accidentally, you know. That little barrier here wasn't there at the time, and it would be very dark, you know, they'll be with a lantern. Or they might have been pushed. You know, if you were caught by the guard in the middle of stealing something, you know, well, you might as well kill the guard. Who knows? Some of those criminals were not that good. Some of them were called monkey suckers. They used to dig little holes in the barrels of rum, and they'll drink a bit like that. I read some interesting stories. I think the best one I read was one night the night watch is watching. He sees three people coming towards him, and they're like they cannot walk straight. You know, they're stumbling around. They're just going right and left, and they really look like they're completely drunk. So he was like, how did they get drunk? Did they steal any of the rum? And as the guard is getting closer, he realized that it was not three men. It was two men, a little bit drunk, and they had stolen a pig, a full pig, and they had dressed him in human clothing to make him look like a guy. And yeah, not the best of criminals. I don't know where that cross is coming from. That must be from the boat behind it. We didn't have the cross before, I think. So this is where you rent those jacuzzi boats or those sauna boats. Hot tub. And yes, so the cross is part of that boat over here. Let's go and take a look. It's quite nice. So that's the St. Peter's barge. They've been here before. I think they probably just lit up the cross. It probably wasn't lit before. The last remaining of those warehouses. So this is the the only one really that was not bombed and that is still here. So that's one of those Georgian warehouses. So in here they would have stored a lot of sugar and rum. And talking about sugar merchant, this was the plinth on which would have been the statue of Robert Milligan. So the guy that had the idea of the docks. As you can see, there's no more statue today. He have been removed. Even before the Black Lives Matter movement, he started to be a bit controversial, and they already considered maybe removing him. He invented the docks, or this type of docks, great idea, but Yeah, he was a slave trader. By the time of his death, I think he had 526 slaves, which is not rare for a man of his time. But it was a bit inappropriate, really, to have a statue of him here as a hero. So they've decided to remove him. He's gonna be exposed inside eventually. I don't know if it started yet. They're meant to put him inside. There's a little exhibit about the links between the docks and on slavery. So they were gonna move him inside, which I think is a good compromise, because at least we don't expose him to the large public as a hero, but we don't shy away from this part of history. I think it's important to remember, the horrors of the past, really. Anyway, so this is the warehouses that they would use for sugar hunting. The shade on the loophole door, it looks like a girl with a skirt ready to jump. It's just a coincidence. It's just the shade. And let me show you the little teeth on the windows. So those little teeth here, that's because they didn't want anyone to get inside to steal anything, not even little people. So not even tiny humans, you wouldn't get in to take some sugar or anything. Now, up there on the loophole door, you can see all the original safety features. None whatsoever. It was very dangerous. A lot of people fell. Some might even have jumped. It was a difficult job. Let me show you what it would have looked like at the time, because this way you get a picture. So that's how they would have worked. So you had the cranes with the goods, so a lot of bags of sugar over here, and you had those people at the top with a hook grabbing the bags or the barrels or whatever it might be. Now see the little wooden thing here. It's not flat. It's going in because they wanted the barrels to roll inside, not outside, of course. And see, quite a difficult and heavy job, really. Anyway, let me move this away and let's go. So talking about our petty criminals, the best story I've heard in one of those interviews, it might have been massively exaggerated, but apparently there's one, I think it was the same little girl, her dad worked at the dock. Apparently there's one guy that wanted to steal a beefsteak, a frozen beefsteak, and he put it into his trousers. And he didn't realize he had hours of work to finish his day. And as he worked, the steak started to melt. So the blood went all over his trousers. And apparently he was very stressed when exiting the wall, leaving the place, because he thought, they'll spot me, I look very bloody, they'll notice that I've taken the steak. And apparently as he walked out, they actually called an ambulance, because they thought he had an accident. He had a lot of blood between his legs, which I think is brilliant, but probably not for him. Not sure he kept his job after that. Anyway, let me be careful with the crossing. There we go. Now, see the little dome here? That was for the guards, so that's where they'll keep all their muskets and everything. And you had another one on the other side. So the little, it's no longer here, but where it says Cannon Workshops here, that's where you had a second little dome. That was a night lock. So if you were caught stealing from the docks or anything like that, you'd be locked in there and dealt with by the authorities in the morning. The Cannon Workshops, it's not because they were producing cannons, they were actually producing barrels. A lot of the goods coming into the docks would actually be repackaged here before to be sent on a train. So a lot of the goods would be put into barrels, small, little, large, and a lot of bags as well with the jute. The jute, I didn't realize how much of an important material it was until I went to Dundee in Scotland. Dundee was, pretty much all the jute in Europe was coming from Dundee. It was a very important material. It was used for anything at the time, for bags or for shelter on a taxi cab, you know, those horse and carriages, anything really. So those natural fibers were very useful. Apparently, Dundee was known as the she town because a lot of the gentlemen were actually unemployed, but a lot of ladies worked in the jute factory. Or factories, because there were a few. I did go and visit one when I was in Dundee. Yeah, exactly, the cannon workshop named after the cannon that was there. That building here was once part of the Port of London authorities. Anyway,